Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Board of Trustees of the Human Foundation, it gives me great pleasure to welcome Professor Theodor Abt. Let me just give you an idea about this foundation, because I can see many new faces around, and maybe you are eager to know what we're doing here. We established this foundation to sow a seed in the process of an Egyptian Renaissance, aiming for Egypt to play its role in spreading the message of peace to the world. We believe that Egypt has a universal message built on its meaningful history. It is with great appreciation I came to realize that it's not only Egyptians who hold this perspective. There are other people around the world who understand the value of this civilization for the future. Professor Abt has been working for decades to uncover the value of this civilization to the world. In this study of Tutankhamun, Professor Abt wrote in the title of the book, Reviving Egypt Past for the Future. Reviving Egypt Past for the Future. That is the work of Professor Abt. I think many people who was here know this is my word. And I have been actually lecturing on, for decades on cultural civilization of Egypt using the exact phrase. And we built the project of Asl Wasl to revive the past for the future. I used Franz study on analytical psychology to explain the underlying connectedness between civilization. I saw that this was my own approach. To my surprise, I realized that Professor Abt made extensive studies on the subject, even when we choose as scholar. As our logo for our project, we have found that Living Human Heritage Project of Dr. Abt has the same logo. Imagine. Living Human Heritage would be an accurate translation of us well lost. Because us well lost means that we are connected to our roots in order to live our human heritage. So this is at the middle. I got to know Professor Abt also by coincidence, which is hard to believe. But I wouldn't take more time to observe you, because we are eager to listen to Professor Abt. We envision a dream of a society and a world free of insanity, violence, conflicts, discriminations, and hatred. In order to reach this objective, we are in great need to uncover our oneness, the oneness of humanity. We are in the deepest level of our existence connected. On this deep level, we are rooted in a human foundation. And this is the name of our foundation. So it has this meaning. I believe that through the realization of our oneness, we are able to narrow cultural gaps and search for our common ground. That is a way to create a peaceful world. Egypt can participate a great deal to this objective. The Human Foundation is a civic institution, acts under the supervision of the Ministry of Social Affairs, And of course, I am missing the Minister of Social Affairs, which I wrote for her here some words that to thank her for her collaborations and for the work we have been doing with the Ministry of Social Affairs. I regret that she is not among us today. This foundation is an umbrella that incubates and nurtures projects that enhance the spirit of love and attachment of our country and awaken our consciousness for our human rights. As such, it has projects which cultivate these innate principles, namely, be yourself and ask policy. Each of these projects serves this objective from different angles. We salute Prof Abt for the efforts which he is making to serve humanity. In a few words, I would like to give you a short bio of Professor Abt. Professor Abt has been Jungian analyst in private practice since 1975. From 1983 to 1988, he was a member of the board of the C.G. Jung Institute in Zurich. He was co-founder and has been a member of the board of the Research and Training Center for Index Psychology, according to C.G. Jung and Marie-Louise from France, Zurich, since its establishment in 1995. He has been a president of the Society of the Friend of Royal Tomb of Egypt since 1988. He has been co-editor of the corpus sorry for inability to pronounce this, because this is Latin, together with Wilfred Madelon. He studied alchemy and translated, commented on all Arabic scriptures following Jungian psychology and relating between alchemy and spiritual growth. He read the Egyptian heritage symbols that explain the dynamics of the psyche. He wrote numerous volumes of Egyptian heritages. He has been working with the Egyptian Ministry of Antiquity for more than 10 years. Welcome, Professor Abt, and we all are ears to listen to his lecture. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Alia, so much for your kind words. Do we need a mic or is that
yes.
Okay? So I will try my best. So welcome to this topic that I would like to introduce you in the vision of Egyptian civilization in the light of human psychology. And that is not a coincidence that this takes place at the foundation, the human foundation, because we have to realize that we have to talk in the future of a human psychology and no more of different brands of psychology. For instance, Freud's psychology, Jung's psychology, other psychology, Richtian's psychology. God knows what, there are 400 denominations of psychologists, but in fact we are one human nature, and people in China will understand my body language as well as I understand their body language. If Chinese girl is flirty, I understand it, no problem, and probably she will understand the response as well. And there is a human psychology in this way, and I would like to make that now clear by connecting it to the Egyptian civilization, because the Egyptian civilization has a lot discovered already thousands of years ago before it became scientifically accepted. Now, in order that you realize what I am going to present to you, this is the overview, and mind you, it is the first time that I use an overhead a PowerPoint projector, because I'm usually I'm an old-fashioned professor who has for 40 years used foils, and if everything cracks down, I am sure that I will have helpful hands to assist and rescue me. Now, the points that I would like to work on is the first, the evolution of consciousness, as that is really essential to understand our human psychology, ourselves namely. The second point will be from hunters and gatherers to agriculture. And then, in the third point, mark the constitution of the world. This is maybe a surprise for you, but it is like that if Mark does not become the constitution of the world, we will be in trouble on this planet. Because Mark is that goddess, and it is a goddess that has been symbolizing the laws of nature, the respect for nature, the laws of equilibrium and justice. And the fourth point, the discovery of the symbolic mapping of the beyond, that is something that has not been really recognized in its impact that it will have for the future, because the ancient pharaonic civilization was able already almost 4,000 years ago to make a complete mapping of the world beyond that we call today the common unconscious. And the scientific confirmation of this is the result of the discoveries of the modern depth psychology. Then we come to the dreams as the wisdom of nature, something that has been very well known in ancient times. We know that dreams played a very important role in the Bible, in the Quran, in all the big scientists like Mendeleev or like other great researchers who were able to find new things thanks to looking at their dreams, and this has not been recognized up till now enough, but we will look at that. And then we come to the last point, the essence of it all, the need for a vessel to contain and integrate the light of the night world, because the night world is that world where we dream, where we have fantasies, where we have also during daydreams and God knows what, but we usually don't pay enough attention to this dimension of our life, of our psyche. Now, the evolution of consciousness, this is a very simple thing that we have to realize better and recognize in its importance. Namely, that first of all there was this dream age, and our ancestors were still living in a participation mystique, in a mystic participation with their environment, with their tribe, with their local family, or with whatever was around them as familiar human beings. And there was this participation, and this is called in Australia by the Aborigines. Let's see if that works as it comes. It is called the Dream Age. And it was a highly moving experience when I was allowed to visit this Arnhem people in Northern Territory of Australia, and to see what an incredible culture these Aborigines already had. I mean, the rock paintings go back 50,000 years, and we know that this Dream Age was also something that was, you see, something that was sort of in the deeper layer of our psyche also, because we are also having still this archaic human being in us, and the dawn of the human spirit, what makes us human, is something that comes second. It is something that was emerging from the unconscious, and this creation of consciousness, unfortunately, it is not avoidable. It brings division between the different human beings, and it is already well known from the Bible and the Quran that we had the hostile brothers, the Cain and Abel, or whatever we had as hostile brothers. It is always that division that was creating consciousness, and we can also say, together with Heraclitus, that war was the beginning of the creation of consciousness. Conflict is in this way a common feature, but then we go on and we come from the hunters and gatherers, from these original archaic tribes, we come to the creation of agriculture, and there has been an incredible discovery made just about 20 years ago. It was in eastern Turkey that the Göbekli Tepe has been discovered. The Göbekli, that means the hot belly hill, Göbekli Tepe, is a reconstruction of the finds that the archaeologists could dig out, and you see that they created a temple, a sacred structure. It could be a temple or it could be something else. We don't know exactly, but we know it must be a sacred structure, because there are no housing around. There is nothing that we could have that would point to something of this world. And they have had an incredible structure, named a circular structure with two pillars in the center. So we see that there is already a beginning of a centering, and they created these structures again and again. And the main things of these pillars is that we have here all these pillars decorated with animals. So animals were the first ones who were the helper animals, and we know from shamanism that animals are the helper animals of the shamans, of those who travel in the beyond, or those who can help human beings to relate to the spiritual world. Continue. See. You see, even animals in 3D were created, and mind you, that is the eldest structures of this Göbekli Tepe are 12,000 years old. 12,000 years, that is way before Stonehenge or way before the pharaonic culture emerged. It is 12,000 years old, and it was done by hunters and gatherers, by a society who had no king yet, who had in this way, no writing, no structures, nothing that helped to bring these people together. They were coming together like ants are coming together and create something together. And you see the structures. We have different structures of these circular structures, always these two pillars in the center, that is the red, what you see here red. And only later on they created squares where there was then finally only one pillar in the center. So when we look back at our overview, you see that the circular structures with two pillars in the center and animals as decoration first, and then later square structures with one pillar in the center. And this was the time when the Neolithic revolution took place. That means there was afterwards settlements coming, there was crop production possible, there was animal husbandry coming, pots were created, and clothes were created. It was a complete revolution. That's why we speak of a Neolithic revolution, a quantum leap in the human evolution and the evolution of consciousness. And now we come to the next point, namely, now is Maat announced. We have these, as it has been mentioned by Dr. Alia, we have this global village in crisis, and we have, of course, in the global village, not the possibility to fight whether now the center of this village is a tree or a temple or a synagogue or a church or a mosque. We cannot bang each other's head on what will be now the center of the global village, because everybody has a different opinion, of course. And we have also the next point, namely that the world economy is not sustainable anymore. We have recent finds have shown that we have even plastic particles in the water in the Antarctic and in the Arctic. Already there we have the pollution full blast going on, and we are creating a huge problem for all of us in this way. And we have not this role model that we have in Egypt, because Egypt is the only state in the world that could renew itself over 3,500 years. And 3,500 years could renew itself again and again, and this state is really unique in the world, as is coming clear from this. And Egypt, what is the special feature of Egypt? Egypt had a goddess for sustainability named Maat, and Maat is an obligation for anybody in the pharaonic time to be able to present, after he has passed away, to in the beyond, to present a little statue of Maat, expressing by that, I have lived according to the laws of nature. And it was from the Felach to the Pharaoh, each and everybody had to do that and had to live according to that. This is not a little statue in the Egyptian Museum, just about this size. But she is bigger than the biggest and smaller than the smallest. It is something incomprehensible because she is that law of nature that we need to respect again. The word respect is probably very meaningful. Now, the discovery of a symbolic mapping of the beyond is also something that we owe to the Egyptian civilization. This mapping of the beyond has been recognized since quite a while. It has been rediscovered through the discovery of how to read the hieroglyphs. But it is not yet really received on a more collective level what it is all about. Now, we see what we have here. This is an overview where I can just illustrate what is behind these Egyptian books for the afterlife, what is behind this whole rejuvenation of the so-called sun god. We have to just remember that in pharaonic times the sun that was giving light and that was illuminating us and making us aware of things is a symbol, an analogy also for consciousness, because we wake up in the morning like the sun wakes up in the morning, and we go to sleep like the sun goes to sleep. And when you look here, in the morning the sun rises as the sun god, the scarab, that is the symbol for the rising sun, and then you have the sun coming to midday, and it shines clearer and clearer, and in the evenings the sun becomes tired and fades away and goes into the beyond. And the ancient Egyptians have been wondering what happens during the night with the sun that is going to rest, to sleep, because they realize, of course, like we all do, that the sun rises in the morning again completely rejuvenated. So that is something we all would like to know, because we all become old and old age is nagging on us. That is the only thing that we know for sure, that it is irreversible. But there is obviously something in nature that knows the secret of rejuvenation. That is the sun god, and of course also the moon. So this is then the second part, this rejuvenation of the sun god through the night hours. And this secret, how it is possible that the sun is rejuvenating in the night, during the night, that is a journey that has been considered to take place on the river Nile, because that is the main way of transportation in pharaonic time. And so one has thought that after all, must be that the sun god is traveling on the river Nile through the 12 hours to rejuvenate and to be reborn in the morning as a new sun, healthy and complete with all this energy that the sun is able to provide us when it rises. That's why it is adored even by the pavilions. When the sun rises in the morning, the pavilions make a huge screaming sound and welcome the new sun. And this we have to now keep in mind when we just look at some of these illustrations that we find in the royal tombs of Egypt. Here you find just the first hour of the Amduat. Amduat, that means in the Egyptian language what is in the Duat, in the beyond, and it is the first mapping of the beyond. It is an incredible document that here we find in the book of Moses 3, and you see here the different registers, and you have just to imagine that what we have here in the middle is divided into two registers. You should have, we should imagine that they are one behind the other, that is first and that is second, and it is a symbol of the river Nile, and what you have on the river Nile, when you just imagine you are sailing on the river Nile with the sun god, then you have on the right and on the left, you have something that you can see. This is what you see down below. This is what you see on the in the upper register. And here you see the bark of the sun god, who is now sailing into the netherworld for his own rejuvenation. And you can imagine that this is a fantastic challenge to try to understand these different symbols, because they all have a meaning and they are not there just for fun. But it's like a huge vision, it's like a huge initial dream that was somehow dreamt at that time, and it is like something that comes from the beyond, and they at that time took care to write it all down and to fix it. They had still not the distraction of television and internet and God knows what, but they had time to look inside and to document what was emerging from the unconscious. And so it continues, and we have then the next hour of the Amduat, where you see here is the river Nile already painted in blue. It is really flowing now. You see here the bark of sun god. Here you see different barks in his retinue, and you see again different gods and goddesses on the top and on the lower register. And it is a flowing now, it's the beginning of a process. And this process flows now, and I would have loved to present to you the whole Amduat this evening. But I have just found out that I cannot speak till midnight. I got the veto. They said, no, people will walk out. And especially you would also probably like to provide yourself with some nourishment or who knows what. Anyway, I must make the whole rejuvenation process that would last the whole night. In fact, I have to squeeze it down to just some highlights. Here you find, for instance, another picture that is then the 5th hour of this Amduat, and you see the difficulties that can arise in this rejuvenation process. Here you see the bark of the sun god. Here you see already the scarab helping that the barge can be pulled over the obstacle of this underworld, symbolized underworld, where you see Isis and the Sotar, the underworld that is preparing for this rejuvenation, and it is full of symbols that are highly meaningful. And what I have always been amazed about is that when I work with individuals in my practice as a psychotherapist, as a Jungian analyst, that I find that people have dreams that go back to pharaonic symbols and can only be understood if I have a knowledge of the history of mankind, if I have a knowledge about what people have already at that time created as symbols, as possibilities to really understand their quest for their own individuality, or I could also say the quest for immortality has to do with an understanding of these symbols, because then we can be guided by these symbols, and that was already at that time the main aim, that people have this knowledge for the afterlife and can in this way accompany the sun god on his way to his rejuvenation. And this, to accompany the sun god, you have to be able to know what it is all about, otherwise you cannot join him in his spark. And as you will see now, is the next picture. This is the last picture of the Lord I show you. It is only, we come only to the 7th hour, but I want to just give you an idea how difficult it is, this process of rejuvenation. This process of rejuvenation is not just a flow on the river Nile where the sun god quietly sails up to the 12th hour, and then that the sun is rising up again and everything is fine. It is full of obstacles. Here in the Ambiot there is this obstacle of this serpent named Apophis or Abt in Egyptian, and this Abt is here presented, and here you have the part of the sun god, and you see that there is a protecting wall between the ship and this serpent that wants to just make the bark of the sun god stop, who wants to make that rejuvenation of the sun, or the symbol of consciousness, of also of collective consciousness, not to rise again. And I can tell you there are dreams that I could collect of individuals of our modern time, that our time is also having this problem that the sun cannot rejuvenate anymore, and needs the help that the sun can rejuvenate, and it is after all the light that lights up our world, so we can understand our world crisis a little bit better in the light of the pharaonic knowledge that always knew that the sun has to rejuvenate, and that the pharaoh has to rejuvenate, Massaet, and that the whole dynasties have to rejuvenate again and again, and it could work for 3,500 years. And it is only then when we forgot about that whole dimension of the need of rejuvenation that we are now in such a trouble, and we don't have any idea from where the solution could come. I remember there was a time where President Reagan was asking the physicians to save the world. The physicists helped to save the world. And nowadays we have again and again, it was the Pope who should save the world, it was Gorbachev should have saved the world, it was this or that. We always have a projection of something. We had Obama who should have saved the world, and he got even a Nobel Prize of Peace for that, but it was not working. And And so we always look out for some savior outside, but the saving device is coming from a rejuvenation of consciousness of our collective attitude towards nature and towards fellow human beings. I have to skip one thing because I don't want to overdo our presentation. How much time is left actually? I would like to have time for it. So midnight is a bit long. Okay, I have some. Anyway. Well, now the scientific confirmation of this objective psyche. That is something that is really of highest importance. As you know, that we had in just the turn of the last century, we had this famous publication by Sigmund Freud, The Interpretation of Dreams. And that was the first scientific breakthrough that dreams are not just mere stories that are of no value at all, but that dreams have a significance. And then, just 100 years ago, around 1917, C.G. Jung mentions the first time the collective unconscious. And this collective unconscious is quite different from the unconscious that Freud was pointing at, because Freud was pointing at something personal, and he considered that the unconscious is rather the garbage hill of rejected aspects of my personal life, and that by looking at dreams, I find what are those causal connections that are missing in understanding problems that I have today. But then the discovery of C.G. Jung was quite amazing, because he could find that people have all that they are not just a tabula rasa, that people are not just beginning with a big bang and they are starting at zero, and then they end with a big bang, and that is when we pop off. That is just a much too narrow view of human life or human psychology. But he could show and demonstrate scientifically that that we are not born just with a big bang, with zero, and we have all acquired through education. No, he could see and show scientifically that we have a second psychic system in us that is an objective other. It is completely different from my ego and my consciousness. And it is this otherness, this objective psyche, this second system that is so much underestimated in its value, because we try to control it, we try to manage it, we try just to manipulate it, and we are not aware that the second psychic system could be the source of complete rejuvenation. Aha! That's exactly now the point, that in this way we have a key to a possibility to understand the pharaonic culture better and the value of the pharaonic culture. So, C.G. Jung first talked about his visions of Zosimos in 1943. Zosimos is an Egyptian. You can be proud of him. He was a key figure in the creation of culture here in the Western world and probably on this world. Zosimos comes from Panopolis, that is today's Akhmin. That was the place where alchemy was really in an intense way practiced, or was an intense culture of alchemy in that area of Akhmin, Abydos up to Luxor. And this is something quite extraordinary, that Jung has been able to understand these visions of Zosimos that were at that time only published in Greek, and thanks to our research of Arabic alchemy that was done together with my dear Salvatore, who is present here, and I'm very happy and proud that you are here with some of your relatives, and that this research on Arabic alchemy revealed that there are manuscripts in Arabic existing, extant in Arabic, that were completely thought to be lost from Greek, and today we have the conclusive proof that these Arabic books of Zosimos are translations of Greek texts, and it goes back to the 3rd and 4th century of the Common Era. So imagine we have an incredible possibility to understand much better the pharaonic culture, and Jung was making the interpretation of these visions of Zosimos, and he could not know at that time that they were all dreams of Zosimos, and Zosimos was taking his dreams extremely serious. He was using his dreams to explain his teachings again and again. And it is an incredible coincidence that these things came together, and one of the manuscripts comes from the Dar al-Kutub here in Cairo, and the other one comes from the Archaeological Museum in Istanbul, but it has been collected by Hamdi Osman at the time when Egypt was part of the Osmanic Empire. So Zosimos was his first historical alchemist, and you can see that the origin of Greek alchemy goes back to pharaonic time, as I could prove with all these texts now, and it is a conclusive proof. And from this Greek alchemy, we have the tradition of Arabic alchemy, Latin alchemy, and modern depth psychology. Because when we look at the Red Book of C.G. Jung, you can see that he has really been inspired by the pharaonic culture through his dreams and through his active imaginations. Jung wrote in 1944 this groundbreaking book, Psychology and Alchemy. And when we look at all this, starting from the hundreds of dollars to Göbekli Tepe to pharaonic culture, all this, and also when we look at Chinese alchemy or Zen Buddhism or Indian philosophy and Vedanta and yoga, then we can see that we have a European tradition whose cradle is the pharaonic culture, and we have today this discovery of this collective unconscious that is really what unites all human beings, because we have a common base that makes us human, like our body has a common structure. We have usually 2 ears, 2 eyes, and 1 tongue, usually. And in this way, Chinese people or South Americans, natives or Aborigines, we have a common basis of it all. And this basis can be really shown by this. This is the model, or this is what modern science shows us. We have in the center, where you see A, that is the center of our consciousness, and we have to see that consciousness is based on the different layers of the unconscious, of our family, of our nation, of our whatever is the background of our human being. And this is seen on the right side, but as modern physics also shows us again and again, we have to learn to think in complementary way, and the complementary view of our being unique individual is that view here, that we are also at the same time the basis of the pyramid that is ending in something common, namely a common center that Jung called in a scientific way the self. In India it is the Atman, the Buddha nature for the Buddhists. It is whatever you want to call it. It is that oneness that is in the center, Allah or Christian God or whatever. We have different names for it, but it is always the same, a center for us all. When we look at our brain structure, we can also see that this gets confirmed by modern knowledge about the brain structure. We have the great brain, or how we call them, the hemisphere. Neocortex. Neocortex, yes. Sorry, sometimes I'm lacking sugar in my brain sometimes. So that is what makes us human. I mean, it's highly differentiated in human beings compared to animals and other creatures that have little of that neocortex. And then we have the middle brain, and we have the little brain, and we have the spinal cord. And we have this in common with animals. We have this all the parts we have in common with the reptiles, with certain parts we have in common with the mammals, and we have this place where the day world, that is day world here, and that is the night world here, and this day world and the night world, they are always working together, because we have this always active, and especially when we are sleeping and we are, so to speak, offline, then the work goes on in the dream world, because there is much more capacity available if we don't have constantly the input from the outer world, and then we can dream, and we know from dream research that dreaming is a way to work out the problems of the day, and that's why in common language we say the morning is wiser than the evening, because in the morning we have been able to process the day through the night world, and we have been working in our brain offline, and there the dreams bring their wisdom. Yeah, I think I should really not overextend your attention. Let me see. We are going a little bit through. Yeah. I would like just to mention something about the dreams. Is pointing out through nature's wisdom that first of all I have to stand up with my own experience. It is around 50 years that I have a collection of my dream books, and I must say I had in the beginning I had just simple notebooks, and then they were spiral books, and then there were bound books, and today they are guest books bound in leather, because my dreams are my most dear guests. And I must say the wisdom of my dreams as I could experience it is that dreams know much more than I do. I dreamt about the pharaonic culture way before I started the projects in Egypt. And we know that dreams always played a central role in the creation of culture. Think of the creation of religions, think of the dreams of Muhammad, think of the dreams in the Bible or whatever. Only modern rationalism has abandoned the world of dreams. We think that they are just electric discharges, as some professor from Harvard University was naming it. And in this way I had to create a word that is just, should be something like an electroshock. I call our culture or ourselves solatics. Because usually when we go to Abasega in there you have the lunatics. And we think that we can live just with the sun alone, solatics. So that is just to pronounce it clearly what I think, what our culture is doing with the dream world. We are just underestimating that wisdom of nature, and in this way we go astray, and we think we get a solution by this or by that, and we just run from one disaster to the next. The dreams at the origin of religious insights I have mentioned, and I can also just refer to my own experience as a professor at the Federal Institute of Technology in Zurich. I have given lectures for over 20 years on the archetypal dreams with regard to the environment problem. And I have collected incredible dreams. They are going to be published in English and German, hopefully this year or next year. Now I come to the last point. I shorten things a little bit up. I would just like to make my point with regard to the need for a vessel. Because you could ask the question, if dreams were always so important and so valuable, then why the hell did people abandon to look at dreams? If it is such a value, and we say it should have continued doing it, why did not the pharaonic culture continue when it has been able to rejuvenate for 3,500 years? That's a question we really have to ask. Now, what could be an answer to this question? Well, human beings have always realized that the unconscious or nature by itself is something overwhelming, and that it can be very dangerous, and it can make possessed. And that is the reason why always human beings try to create a circle around themselves to protect them. They call that the magic circle. And this circle we have already seen in the sacred structures of the Göbekli. And these first magic orders of protection have been rebuilt in the Göbekli again and again. And then we can also see, for instance, that in Tutankhamun's tomb, you probably know that. No, I don't have it here. Never mind. Never mind. It makes it shorter anyway this way. The Tutankhamun shrine has the first circular serpent, the so-called Ouroboros, as the Greek named it. It is this serpent that bites its own tail. In Egyptian it is called a tail in mouth. And this tail in mouth is a circle that protects also. It protects the it's on the second shrine of the Tutankhamun shrines that you find in the Egyptian Museum. And this protection of the Ouroboros was always needed, because the spirit of the unconscious, or the spirit of nature, is constructive and destructive at the same time. And that is why it was always an important thing that you create a container and to transform this contents of the unconscious before one lets it out. And this is the problem of when we take something just literally and take, for instance, a dream. Somebody dreams and then thinks he has to do that. There was this unfortunate example of this student at the Jung Institute in Zurich who came to study Jung psychology, and he dreamt a wonderful dream because he fell in love with a Hungarian gypsy girl. And then he dreamt that he's marrying this girl. And so he concluded, I have to marry her. And he jumped to conclusion, and he sent a telegram back home to America, where he came from, where he had his family, and he said, I want a divorce, I want to marry a new. And then you can imagine the rest of the story. After 3 months later, the girls were gone, and the girl left him, and the disaster was complete. No gypsy girl and no family, and everything was collapsing. And there you see, when you take things just concretely, you don't ponder over things, you don't really try to distill things out of what it could really mean, then you are in trouble. Because, of course, such a dream is not just to be taken literally, but it was something that was constellated in his psyche that he should connect to. He was a fellow from America, and of course the gypsy girl fascinated him, and this is what he should have integrated in his psyche and married inside and not outside. And when you want now to know what we have here in Zosimos's teaching, you can see that here we can learn a lot from Zosimos's teaching. What we see here is a picture from the oldest extant picture series of alchemy. It is way older than any Arabic or Latin illustration that we have. So it goes back to the teaching of Zosimos, and you see Zosimos here, and you see Theodor, his student here. And you see Zosimos has a sun on his head, and Theodor has a moon on her head. And of course, Zosimos explains in his teachings that he fell madly in love with his student, who was probably a queen or a priestess. We can't say for sure. But it was an unattainable love. She was not, he could not have her biologically. So he realized that he had to find out what is then the meaning, because Theodor was also madly in love with him. And so they had this huge mutual attraction, and they had to stand it. And Zosimos was a little bit more conscious than Theodor, because Zosimos experienced that first on himself. And he explains to Theodor that it killed him, it made him really, it cracked up his ego. He could not understand, and it killed him. And when then Theodor asks him, who killed you? He had to answer directly, who killed me? Who killed me? And it was a frank standing up for what it was. And that was the reason why also Theodor could look inside her. And here he shows the alchemical oven. And when we speak of alchemy and changing lead or copper into gold, and that is what usually people think alchemy is all about, then we have to see these old manuscripts and learn from them. Because it has nothing to do with making ordinary gold, it is the creation of consciousness. And you see that the oven has the same size as Theodor, and you see that the retort up is connected to an alembic, and the essence that flows into the alembic is that elixir, and this is produced in the head of Theodor, and Zosimos explains to Theodor that this cooking or distilling means pondering over something. And when I mentioned this dream of this American, this unfortunate American who wanted to marry or did marry this gypsy girl, that was lack of pondering, what he could not do or could not realize, and could not be properly advised. He was not consulted, was not advised properly. He should have really put this dream into the retort together with all his emotion, and that would have fired this image of his gypsy girl and his marriage question. And it would have made him realize in time that such a dream has a symbolic meaning and has to be seen symbolically. And this is what it was all about. This alchemy means pondering, means really in this way reuniting. And when I come now to the last picture, this is the picture that I love very much, and you might even recognize that it is like Jung's little lantern, where he realized that he had to walk in the dark and that there was a shadow following. But this picture shows that the alchemist That is what could call the Jung at a later stage, where he realized that he just has to follow the footprints of modern nature to be guided, and she is the guide, and it is the night world. But he has to have glasses, he has to have a lamp, he has to have a stick to guide him to have a proper orientation in the night world. And the main thing is really that we realize that the night world must enter the day world step by step. It is like the famous dream of Kekulé that you might know all. He was this chemist who made the breakthrough of organic chemistry by finding the structure of the ring of benzol. And benzol ring was opening the door to all the research of organic chemistry. And in a congress at the end of his life, a congress was organized in his honor, he said, "My dear gentlemen," there were only men in the audience, "Gentlemen, I tell you, start to take dreams serious, but for heaven's sake, don't just blur them out. Ponder over them first, and only then start to talk about it." This is the end. I thank you.
This wonderful journey where it takes us from the prehistory to the hunter and the hunters, and then to the consciousness of the Egyptian civilization, and then to the modern time. And I think many people now have many questions in their head, and I would rather, if anyone would like to ask questions, so please.
Thanks. I'm Dr. Marie-Louise, Professor of Medicine and specializing in chronic pain management, and with some interest in psychology. Actually, do you have any manuscripts about any psychological problems present in ancient Egypt, like depression, like schizophrenia, or something of the sort? No. Just you are inspiring how they are thinking about nature, about the development of human mankind, especially that most of the remedies and most of the prescriptions in older Egypt just give some medicine and followed by some recipes. So the ancient Egyptian person is all the time linked with a superpower. He's searching for the unknown superpower or spiritual force to back him or to give him some sort of aid to. So I don't know if it is there's all the medical papyri like Eber's papyrus, like Edwin Smith's, or whatever it is, even surgical papyrus are full of crystals. So I would like to know there is nothing of the sort.
No, I don't.
Okay, so my third actually comment on the question that you lectured us to the Egyptian civilization. But what you have said is ancient Egyptian civilizations. If you'd like to, I'm expecting that you're going to have a journey from the old ages to come to the modern history in Egypt.
You have to ask
So I would like to, I think it's to be ancient Egyptian civilization, not Egyptian civilization, to do a common lecture between each other, to join the lecture with each other. Thank you.
I am the founder of Rmos. Hello. Yeah, hello. Yes, so I can special from you. Well, I'm a psychiatrist, and I've written about psychiatry in ancient Egypt. I have 2 papers on psychiatry in ancient Egypt. So there are presentations of mental health problems in ancient Egypt.
Which papyrus?
Yeah, well, it's not only in Cairo. There are documentations. There is actually the first suicide note is written in ancient Egypt in the man's dialogue with his soul. So it is more in literature, and that's actually akin to modern psychiatry, because modern psychiatry is a child that came out of the womb of literature. So it is not something that comes only from science. Although the Egyptians recognize that we have a brain, and the brain has mental faculties and has cognitive faculties and is concerned with attention and memory and all these things, but they attribute it to the heart, and that's quite a long story. I don't have the time to explain everything, but the Egyptians actually documented psychological problems, including alcoholism, including hysteria, and it's only the Greeks that gave the name hysteria, because of course they thought that the womb in the woman it wanders off, and that is the reason for all the psychological problems that women have. But the Egyptians were the first to fumigate the vagina and to treat the wandering womb without calling it hysteria. But there are documentations of fainting due to hysteria, to speechlessness due to hysteria. So all these things are there.
My name is Muhammad, and I have a very high interest in psychology. In one of the slides, you have mentioned that only the Egyptians have reviewed themselves over 2,500 years. I just needed some elaboration about this thing. It was really not understood to myself. The renewal only by the Egyptians or
if you look at world history, you will see that the only country that has been able to know the secret of renewal in a perfect way is the pharaonic culture. If you look at the Old Kingdom, and you see dynasties renew itself, and you see then there was this intermediate period that was a period of crisis, where you see then also in the literature, you see these texts of these complaints and all that. And then you see a complete rejuvenation in the Middle Kingdom, and again comes after a period, an intermediate period of crisis, and then with the New Kingdom comes again a new perspective, a new way of seeing it, and a complete rejuvenation. Actually, the Amduat is like like a cornerstone or an initial dream in this rejuvenation of the New Kingdom. Of course, elements of the Amduat go back to the Middle Kingdom, but it is as a creation, it is, as Eric Hornung could make evident, it is a creation by itself. And then we have this rejuvenation going on further on in the late period, and then even during the Ptolemaic time and then the Roman time, Egypt was able to remain as a culture intact and assimilated lots of things of the Roman, of the Greek and the Roman culture. So it is unique, and it is a culture that has its boundaries. It is due to Mother Nature, because we have the Mediterranean in the north, we have the deserts all around to protect naturally Egypt from invaders, and so they could invest much more energy in the religion than in warfare. And that was the great advantage of Egypt. Something like in Tibet, you also have a natural protection, or even Switzerland is, thanks to Mother Nature, protected as a little nation. Okay.
Thank you for this very rich presentation. So many questions, especially when you...
Can you kindly introduce yourself, please?
Sure. My name is Franz, and I'm very interested in Egyptology and in psychology. So it's a perfect presentation for me. And actually gives trainings on business skills, including psychology, with some ancient Egyptian source. So this is one. So I'm very interested in what you mentioned, that modern people who are not Egyptian, who are not Egyptologists, might have in their dreams symbols that someone like you, who understands psychology and ancient Egyptian symbology, can decipher that they themselves might not fully understand. So do you have some examples, some stories about this? Thank you very much.
That would be like opening a champagne bottle. I have to pause because I am afraid that people are really getting probably to the limit of what can be absorbed.
But one dream would be not hurt.
Say then.
At least one dream wouldn't hurt. Yes. You owe us a dream.
Okay, I will surrender. There is one dream that is really very striking. A dream.
We need to close the doors because we don't want anybody to go in or out while you are telling us.
Oh, okay. So please leave. Sorry. It's been taking a long time. No, this dream is a dream that I remember very well because it is a dream that I had. Way before I was coming regularly to Egypt, and way before I started to study Egyptology. It was a dream where I was swimming in the lake of Zurich around Küsnacht, and I was swimming out in the lake, and there was something that was highly enigmatic. Namely, that there were waves coming by itself without any wind. There were just waves, and when I was trying to inquire about it and swim out, I realized all of a sudden it was no more the lake of Zurich, it was the ocean. And then I was swimming and coming to this place where these waves were. And these waves were so attractive for the hippies. That was in the late 70s or in the 70s. It was the hippie time, and I was a hippie too at that time. So it was the hippies went swimming out there in order to get the kick out of these waves. They were rocking, you know, like like the surfers, you know, who just have being rocked by these waves, and they were enjoying it like hell. And then afterwards, disappear, going back to sleep again. And I was swimming out to this place, and I was wondering what makes these waves, from where that comes. And so I put my head underwater, and I was surprised that I could, without my without this, without this
Undersea eyeglasses.
These big things, you know, without this mask, that I could see clearly. And what did I see? I was seeing down below, I was seeing a pharaonic village, like it would be like it would be alive, a pharaonic village with a temple, with everything that was completely alive. And I was shocked out of my wits, and it went on that I could also realize that I could breathe when I was going down. And so it continued. I don't want to go into all the details, but you can see that this was also a trigger where I realized, my God, there is something alive that was also shaking me, because I was also very happy about this breaking open of structures, of stiff structures, of bourgeoisie and all that. I was also part of that scene. I was enjoying it, being in Berkeley. I was working on a farm. I went back and forth between the farm and Berkeley, the hippies, and I was enjoying all that. But I realized I had to find out what is the reason that they are getting this kick out of it. What is the reason for being for these waves? And it was a wave, and you could see that when you don't really inquire what is the reason why you are moved, or why you are a moved one, as the hippies call themselves. They call themselves, we are moved. And if you don't want to find out why you are moved, if you don't look inside and look inside your psyche, why you are moved and why this is so fascinating, when you don't look at the origin, then you don't get such insights as I wanted. And of course then I had to dive down, and I had to find out more and more what is the reason for this hippie movement. And if you look at these, we call them the 68ers, this generation of the 68 years, they all became afterwards very sober bankers again. I mean, they swung from hippies to the other extreme. They have their villas and they have their whatever. It faded away because they could not unite the lower and the upper, or the unconscious force that makes the movement and consciousness. And they were, I remember very well, they were having the slogan, "Don't trust anybody over 30 years." Good luck.
My name is Muhammad. I am a psychologist. We know each other since a long time. Mr. Professor Abt, Muhammad. Maybe we haven't seen each other since more than 50 years or so. Really? I have a question. You are differentiating between dreams and often borrowed or revelation. Is it right?
Well, it is very, very difficult to. Sorry. Well, the main thing is that dreams are products, spontaneous products of the night world, and can sometimes also continue in the day world or as a revelation. When I think, for instance, how Mendeleev found out the periodic system that has been the main guideline for modern physics with regard to the different elements. How he found that out, he was pondering over it, then he had this dream, and it continued as a revelation when he was able to trace certain things and fix it. So it is a circular process very often. It is coming triggered off by a dream, and then comes, you start to write it down, and you might have a second dream, or a revelation through that, or an inspiration. It is always coming from the unconscious, and that is the main thing. The source is the unconscious.
Number two, I want to...
I have to get away.
I want to comment about rejuvenation. You said something global about the rejuvenation of the state and of the dynasties and all this stuff. But the ancient Egyptian had thought also of rejuvenation in many aspects. One of these main aspects in the Book of the Dead, chapter of transforming oneself into a snake. They wanted to be transformed into a snake in the afterlife because he had seen that the snake is the only creature on the earth that it changes its skin, and after it changes its skin, it becomes another new skin. So he thought it is a kind of rejuvenation. And for this reason, he wanted himself to be transformed into a snake, so that he can practice this rejuvenation as the snake is rejuvenating himself. There are some other aspects in the Book of the Dead about rejuvenation, and this is just I wanted to mention.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like just to end this wonderful session to just mention some points that we have to take out with us from here. First of all, that there is an objective existence of the unconscious. It is not only personal, it is collective. And then we can, from this collectivity, we can be inspired. This is a very important thing. The other point which I would like just to mention, that we are not looking at the Egyptian civilization in a normal way. We are looking at the Egyptian civilization as an inspiring symbols that can live with us and it can make us understand ourselves. So this is a very important issue because we are victims of European who study Egypt and Egyptology because they study the civilization with their own mind, and then they do not understand the depths of this civilization. So this is something that we have to take with us when we are going from here. The third point, which is very important, unless we integrate our inner self with our life, then we are going to be just like half persons, half human beings. We have to integrate ourselves, the unconscious with the consciousness. And then in order to do that, we have always to take seriously what's coming from within ourselves, but not coming from within ourselves and just to go in a passive way. But we have to take this and expose what is coming from within our consciousness, and be inspired again from our unconsciousness. So this kind of circular movement, that is, I think this is that's what I gained and acquired, and I am thankful that I have from Professor Abt. Now, I think this was very interesting, and thank you so much. And we have a reception in the garden, so I think